Our next speaker is the Labour Party candidate for Dublin South West, Pat Rabbitte.
Thanks, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. As you all know, we've suffered a calamitous change of fortune in the national economic area over the last 3 years. And when you couple that with the revelations of waste of public money, it has served to undermine public confidence, not just in the mismanagement of the outgoing government, but in the political system itself. So, apart entirely from ensuring that this doesn't happen at regular intervals in the future, we have to ensure that individual citizens feel a far greater sense of involvement in the decisions that shape their lives. Fewer and fewer people, unfortunately, feel a sense of ownership of their politics. We need a more practical democracy, one that empowers citizens and ends the sense of exclusion of so many of our people. Of course, the incoming government will face the enormous challenge that is the economy. But a priority for any new government must be to reform our institutions and restore public confidence in our democratic system. In Labour, we begin this process of renewal with the Oireachtas itself. We want to reform our national parliament in a fundamental way so as to meet the needs of the Irish people in the 21st century. A note of caution. Productivity in politics is not easily measured. Not by sitting hours or number of bills passed. Being a TD is not a conventional 9-to-5 job, nor is the Dáil simply a legislation factory. But the job of the TD has undoubtedly become devalued in the public perception, and there are deeper issues than perception. Reform cannot stop at the door of Leinster House. The principles and practices underpinning government accountability need change. Legislation and constitutional measures that give primacy to the public interest have to be a priority. While the need for accountability in government and in public administration has never been greater, the effectiveness of Parliament in securing that accountability is in serious decline. The emphasis is on rules drafted in the 1920s, procedures and precedent, on restrictions on members, on upholding decorum and the dignity of Parliament. Our proposals would fundamentally alter the way the Oireachtas and the government and the public service works. In our comprehensive plan to transform government politics and the public service, as published in January, we itemised 140 separate proposals that would reform how the government functions, how the Dáil carries out its business, and how the public service operates. When they are enacted, these proposals to change the Constitution, the law and the structure of government will transform the way public business is done in Ireland. Our document is laid out as a working programme of specific measures. We're advocating the abolition of the Seanad, but it's important to emphasise that this must be accompanied by a change to strengthen the role of the Dáil, so that we will have a properly functioning Parliament that holds government to account, with increased powers to establish inquiry by parliamentary committee, demand answers from ministers and question officers of public bodies. The country needs a strong, reformed, single-chamber Parliament with the power and authority to hold the government, departments of state and state agencies to account. We will also change the work of each member of Dáil Éireann by, for example, ending the monopoly of government and introducing legislation. Failure to provide reasonable information in response to parliamentary questions is a serious and long-standing defect in the present operation of the Dáil. Labour will introduce a role for the Can Comhairle to intervene when the minister is adjudged not to be providing answers to the questions sought. Some of the most radical proposals we propose relate to the public service. To ensure that they are implemented, we are proposing an Office of Public Service Reform headed by a Minister of Cabinet rank. In particular, we need to make changes in ministerial and departmental accountability. For too long, post-mortems have always conceded that failures were systemic, that no individual was accountable. We want to change that, to delegate specific powers to specific officers and who would be accountable both within the department and also directly to the Oireachtas for the exercise of these powers. The need to clarify and modernise the relationship between the Minister as head of the department and the Secretary-General as Chief Executive is crucial to improved accountability. After the Dirt inquiry, the government and the permanent government resolved that a committee of Parliament should never again be given such powers. Recovering just over £1 billion for the Exchequer in evaded taxes was all very well, but senior civil servants and ministers being held accountable on live television was something up with which the system could not put. Abbie Lara provided the excuse to kill off inquiry by Parliamentary Committee, and successive Fianna Fáil-led governments have made sure it stayed dead. I believe that a parliamentary power of inquiry is necessary and intrinsic to the proper functioning of a representative, responsible parliamentary democracy. I believe that the state is the poorer and has functioned more poorly in the absence of a system where those who exercise authority in the state can be called to account for their performance in office. The legacy of the Dirt inquiry is not just the €1 billion retrieved for the Exchequer, but rather a modern, streamlined, effective and professional Department of Revenue Commissioners. There are so many issues concerning public money and public interest, apart entirely from the nature of the issue involved in Abbie Lara, that inquiry by Parliamentary Committee would enhance the independence of Parliament, improve accountability and serve the public good. Labour also commits to the strengthening of the strategic management capacity in the civil service and public service through training, secondment and open recruitment. The proposal to import into the state service at a strategic or senior level of even a limited number of experienced personnel would greatly improve the skill set and transform the culture in the civil and public service. At the same time, the opportunity must be created for the temporary secondment of civil and public servants to the private sector. We will legislate for the protection of whistleblowers. We will also need to reform politics to begin to undo the damage done by Fianna Fáil. To help achieve this, we will significantly reduce the amounts that can be donated to political parties and candidates under the law, legislate for the regulation of lobbyists, and restore and extend the Freedom of Information Act. We're convinced that these changes will open public business to the people and genuinely begin to restore confidence and a sense of ownership by the people in their own affairs. Thank you.